Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Crazy About Kickoff podcast, the first one of the 22-23 season. Now, hopefully, they'll be a bit more regular than they was last year. But anyway, this one is our 22-23 predictions for the Premier League season. Now, it's certainly shaping up to be an interesting Premier League season, John.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've had a more exciting transfer window than the one that every club in the Premier League's had in years. I think the players that have come in from in every part of the table, the top four have strengthened, the top eight have strengthened. All the teams that have come up, apart from one, have sort of strengthened. Even all the teams in mid-table have made some good moves. I think it's going to be a really interesting season, a really tough season to kind of work out where everyone's going to finish as well.
Yeah, we're going to try and do that anyway. How successfully? Well, we'll come back to this at the end of the season, maybe, and see what it's like. So we'll start with the top four, and we'll go from fourth to top. So who do you have coming fourth, John?
So fourth for me, I think is probably my most out there prediction. So of my entire thing, maybe is I think Man United are going to come fourth.
United. Why?
I think everyone. I think after they played Liverpool in pre-season, I think everyone got a bit over hyped and too much on the bandwagon of what Ten Hag's doing. But I think there's something brewing at United that we haven't seen for quite a few years. Under Ollie, didn't see it at all. Under Ragnick, it was just a train crash. And I think this is getting back to sort of the United that United fans probably want to see. They've signed like some good younger players. Like they've got a lot of already amazing talent in that team, which just didn't perform as well as you'd expect it. And I think Ten Hag's job is really simple in the sense of he just needs to get the team playing to at least to its standard. If he can get the players playing to the standard that they are, then I think they'll make top four without that many difficulties. And the signings they made with Martinez, Malacia, I think they're both really good, really exciting additions. And it's just whether he can get it all functioning and flowing the way he wants in time for them to have a good season, really. But I think he will do.
For me, I think that's the key part. As you say, Ten Hag getting his ideas across and implemented relatively quickly. For me, it's not going to happen. He's going to have some struggles, I think.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I
it's going
think
to be a season for United.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing. I think any talk of a title challenge by United fans needs to be stopped in its tracks because that is just wishful thinking. I think it's wishful thinking for the other 18 other teams, bar the two we're probably going to discuss further on. But top four, I think, is well within their reach, and I think that is the aim, and it should realistically be the expectation as well. Plus, they also have other competitions they're in which they could compete in and try and get some silverware in. So I think United fans should be optimistic, and I think top four is where they might be at the end of the season.
Now, for me, fourth place is Arsenal. Now, yeah, people will make that face maybe, and they might be like, "What's he chatting?" But for me, the additions they've made in Fabio Vieira in midfield, I really like him. He looks like a really classy player. Gabriel Jesus up front, obviously, we know he can score goals, and I think he scores even more goals now that he's in an starting berth rather than being a rotation player under Pep. And Zinchenko as well. I really like that signing. So I think Arsenal could comfortably come fourth, to be fair. Now, third as well. I don't think you can like this one either because we know the top two teams are going to be, don't we, really? And third, I think Spurs. Obviously, they finished third last year. They've got Harry Kane and Son, two absolutely world-class attacking players. They've added Kulusevski in January, who look like a really good Premier League standard player as well. They've added Richarlison, who we know can score goals. So when Kane maybe gets a niggle or something, he can jump in and still score goals for them. They've added Bissouma, who I really like. They've got one of the best centre-backs in the league in Romero. And they've signed Longley on loan. So if Conte is going in that three at the back system, then they'll thrive. For me,
I think I think with Spurs, I think the biggest mark against them in terms of getting top four is, and in terms of getting top three, I guess, which would be an improvement, is the fact they are Spurs. That is, as a club, their success isn't really in their DNA unless you're talking to your great granddad. But I think I think the signings they've made, I think that some of them are smart. I think they are good signings, but I think really, I personally think that United will have a better season than them, and obviously my third place team, I expect to have a better season than them. So I still think, regardless of the improvements they've made, I still think they'll miss out on the top four because I've got in third the team that were third last year, and that would be my team, and that would be Chelsea. And I think a lot of people are writing us off. I think maybe some of it's justified, but I think a lot of it's not. I think we finished third last season, and the last probably third of the season for us was a real struggle. You're talking about players not knowing if the club was going to survive the next 2 months. You're talking about ownership changes. You're talking about rumours of players having to pay their own way to away games. You're talking about all that sort of stuff, plus Champions League quarter final, plus FA Cup final, and yet we still managed to finish above these two teams. And I think now we've got Cucurella over the line, thanks, despite Brighton's insistence for that wasn't happening, it was merely a rumour. I think that combined with Koulibaly, combine that with Raheem Sterling, I think if anything we've improved our team, and I think the fact that we've managed to improve our team is a pretty scary thought, because at times our team was pretty good last year, and it was just finding that consistency within the team. And I think if we can find it again this year, I think we'll be exactly where we were last year, just because the two teams above us are just too good. But I don't think anyone else, regardless of the signings they've made, get close to the quality that we've got, especially in certain areas of the pitch now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've mentioned them top two. Now, what order do you have it in?
I'm going to assume I have it in the opposite order you do, purely based on your affinities and your affiliations. But I've got
biased podcast.
Yeah, well, I've got Liverpool second, and I've got City top but that was probably one of the toughest decisions I had to make. I think people are putting a little bit too much on certain people's performances and results in the Community Shield. I think it is just a glorified friendly. Doesn't really mean anything as a trophy. Like, it's not even a trophy. It's like a serving dish. You'd put your appetizers on there, wouldn't you? Like, it's not important. Granted, look, mentally maybe is an advantage to Liverpool, but I don't think mentally Liverpool have ever needed an advantage over anyone. And I think City, with the signings they've made and the main signing they've made, I know he dropped a couple of stinkers on the Community Shield, but there was also a lot of glimmer of quality. The one where he put it in, but the ball had gone over the line. I think get him second game of the season, whatever, Bournemouth at home or whoever they've got, I think that's going to be an ugly day, and I think that'll just kickstart him, and I think they'll just start playing the way City play under Pep. But Liverpool, I think you'd be foolish to count them out, and I think I saw something today, and it was that every season you've had a fully fit Van Dijk the whole season, you've got 90 plus points, and that in like the last 4 years or 5 years, you've had 1 point less than City accumulated.
Yeah, that's actually true. I've seen that myself.
Which seems mental, and obviously it doesn't really make sense that you've only won one, but obviously the points gap in that one season is then added up to the smaller points gaps between the two of you when City have won it. But I think that's the thing. I think you're going toe-to-toe over 38 games with a City side that just don't seem to know how to give up a Premier League title. So, I mean, Liverpool winning it would be interesting. I'd back it fully, 100%, because I don't think anyone else has a sniff. But I think City, for me, have got another Premier League wrapped up.
Now, I do have City top. I have Liverpool second for several reasons. The Haaland factor, of course. Once he does start banging them in, and it could take him a while. We've seen in the Community Shield that maybe he doesn't. City, don't play to his strengths. But once they find out how to do so, or even just sort of wing it, and he'll still bang in goals, he'll be lethal. So the Haaland factor mainly. Liverpool's midfield depth, kind of. Like there's already a couple of injuries in there, and if the main man, Thiago, gets injured, you may as well write it off, I think.
Which has happened as well. It's not like a player we're talking about who isn't incredibly like injury prone and doesn't normally miss a game. There has been little niggles and even longer term things which have kept Thiago out. So yeah, that is probably a worry as well.
But I think there's every possibility still that Liverpool can win the league. But from a prediction point of view, I would go with City. But I think there's several reasons why Liverpool also can win the league in terms of the additional quality depth they've got now with the likes of obviously Ramsey for Trent at right back. Then you've got Carvalho can slot into the midfield, or he can play behind the striker. And you've got the likes of Harvey Elliott coming back from that brutal injury. Obviously, he didn't get much game time last season due to, I think, probably Jurgen Klopp easing him in. But we know how much of a baller he is already. And you've got obviously Nunez. Now, obviously, looked like a bit of an unknown quantity, and it's been a lot of criticism, but I think he's answered it quite well. With his showing in the Community Shield and obviously the friendly against Leipzig, but obviously I know friendlies don't really count, but clearly he has the movement, he has the finishing, so it's just learning the rest of it under Klopp. What better manager to learn the pressing and the passing aspects from, really? So I think it still could be a very, very close title race. I don't think Gary Neville's claim of it being a massive point swing in City's direction is accurate. Now, I might have egg on my face at the end of the season, but equally Gary Neville might, so we'll see. But I think, another close title race from a prediction standpoint, City swing it, but it could go either way. I think there's a lot more unknowns this season about City than there was last season, for me anyway, in terms of, as I said, how they fit Haaland in when they end up eventually playing to his strengths, and also the fact that they've lost Raheem Sterling and Zinchenko, two quality players, haven't really replaced them. Now, if you ask me about Sterling running down the wing and then you ask me about Grealish or Mahrez, I would much rather play against Grealish or Mahrez, personally, for me. Now, obviously with City, though, it's just will they go out and spend 50, 60 mil on another player? They might well. And then we might be coming back in a couple of weeks' time saying, well, you know, this player makes it look like City have got the league wrapped up, whatever. But I still think it will be close.
No, I do. I think you're right. I think this is another one where it might come down to the what ifs on ifs, buts and maybes at the end of the season. And I think a couple of maybe things about City that people maybe are forgetting is, I think the sign of Calvin Phillips is quite an astute one, because I think obviously no Fernandinho, people looking at Rodri going, well, City are going to want to compete on all four fronts. That's like 60 odd games. And you've seen how important a player like Rodri, similar to how Fabinho is to you, how important those players are in every game they play in. And having someone like Calvin Phillips, who has pretty much protected a very risky Leeds backline for the last 2-3 seasons. Granted, he was injured quite a lot last season, but for him to be a backup or to add to the depth that they've lost is pretty impressive. And I think as well, Grealish is a player where this season you're either going to see the fact he's got Pep's ideas now wrapped in his head, which shouldn't be hard because there doesn't seem to be a lot in between his ears at the moment anyway. But I think if he can get Pep's ideas on how to play, and he can, like, part of it is probably him accepting that that's how he has to play, and part of it is him adjusting to it. And if he can do that, I think that's another quality player that is almost like not a new signing, but his form, even if it gets a little bit better, that's another dangerous player they've got, and maybe that just means they won't miss Raheem, and maybe that's the gamble that Pep's taking, that him between Grealish, Foden, Mahrez, Silva can still play out there if he's still here at the
Yeah,
end of the window. I think between them, I think you're still looking at probably, I mean, definitely one of the best two attacks in the league,
yeah.
maybe the best, but yeah, you're right, very tight, and it'll be very, very close to call, I
Oh, and
think, at the
one
end of
thing
the
I did
season.
forget to mention about Liverpool is obviously you've just mentioned the fact that City's attacking depth, the likes of Jota, Luis Diaz, who I think Luis Diaz now with a full pre-season under him will be. I know he was a beast last season, but he'll be a different beast. But anyway, we'll move on to the relegation battle. Now, when you sent me your predictions, mine are pretty similar. So we'll go 20th place first.
Yeah, so I hadn't really thought about which way I was going to place them, but I think bottom for me is Bournemouth. I
Yeah,
think
Bournemouth.
not
Yeah,
think nothing about them says survival. I think so far they've signed Ryan Fredericks on a free, and I don't know if they've made that many other
yes.
moves really.
I think they signed some midfielder the other day as well. I can't
Oh,
think who he is.
Marcus Tavernier from Middlesbrough,
Yeah,
didn't
it
they?
doesn't scream
It
staying up,
just,
does it really?
especially when you compare it with the business the other two have done, and I
Yeah,
think Scott Parker, really nice lad, like ex Chelsea. Think he was a tidy player, good player, but I think as a manager he's got his limitations, and I think he's shown that already when he was manager of Fulham. And I think this season, I just don't think Bournemouth, when you compare them to even the squad that the other two promoted sides have got now, I just don't think they have a chance of. Maybe they might not finish bottom, but they're not better than three other teams in the league, and their manager's probably the worst in the league. So I don't really see them staying up in any capacity. So 20th place for them, I think.
yeah. Now you spoke of Fulham, Scott Parker's former club. They're my 19th place. I just look at the business and I'm not really impressed. Okay, Joao Paulinho from Sporting is probably a good buy, but then you offset that with Andreas Pereira. Hasn't really ever performed at Premier League level. Hasn't really even performed at the levels he's been on, like the clubs he's been at on loan, really. So for me, that's a poor signing. And I just don't think they have the squad, like you say about Bournemouth, really to maintain Premier League survival.
Yeah, I think I'd probably put them 19th as well. I think Paulinho on paper looks like a really smart signing. We've seen Fulham make really smart signings in midfield before when
Now,
they've
you
got
know, I
promoted.
suppose it's a good sign and he's better than what they had, but still, I've never rated Leno from his time at Arsenal.
No,
Never.
I don't look. It could be wrong, but I agree with that. I think they've signed Babu as well, haven't they,
And Babu, yeah,
from Wolfsburg?
yeah.
Which I think
I
probably
like that.
out of
I
the
like that
four,
one, to be fair.
yeah, I think out of the four, that's the best of them. But once again, does a right back, a centre midfielder, and two ex Premier League players, which no one's been ever that keen on, keep you up as Fulham? I really
Mana
doubt
Solomon
it.
as well, I don't really know much about.
No, exactly. Like
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely
and
unknown quality, but
yeah, I think the other problem I think they'll have is one. See, they lost Carvalho. He's gone to Liverpool, who we didn't mention earlier talking, but that's a really good signing, and that's a lot of things they're
yeah,
missing. I think the only hopes that Fulham have of staying up are one, Mitrovic needs to learn how to score in the Premier League.
which he's never really done before. Okay, I think he scored 11 in like his first season with Newcastle, which was actually higher than like Welbeck and established Premier League players like Firmino and people like that. But still, he's never really lit the Premier League on fire.
No, and I
Like,
think part of that was he was quite unfortunate the last time Fulham came up because Scott Parker was the manager and had just seemingly decided to just shun him off and
yeah,
try and play
he
this
had
a different way.
altercation with Parker, didn't he, or something? I think like
Yeah,
he had
and
a bit of beef.
exactly. And the other, I think Marco Silva as a manager, I think he's had some highs and lows in the Premier League already. I think at Hull we showed that he was quite a competent manager at Premier League level. Unfortunately, couldn't keep him up, but I think did very well. At
Yeah,
Everton, it was incredibly hit and miss at times. At Watford, it was also incredibly hit and miss at times. But I think there's a good manager in there and there's an exciting manager. It's just whether he's going to be able to play the attacking football that he's played with Fulham against Premier League
yeah,
defences and Premier League midfields and Premier League's attacks. And I just don't see it happening.
no, no, I can't say it myself. Now, 18th, I have gone for Southampton. Now, hear me out on this, right? They're woeful. They've got no one who'll score goals. Who've they got who'll score goals? All right, Adam Armstrong. I might be being a bit harsh on him, but I've never been impressed by the likes of Shay Adams. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've just never really been impressed by Shay Adams. They've lost Shane Long. I know he wasn't the Premier League like bagsman, but
Brozier's gone back to us, hasn't he?
no, he's just come back to you. So if they got up front, they've signed some lad from the French league, but he's got. I looked the other day. His goal record isn't the greatest either.
Yeah. To be fair, when I was thinking about teams, I did kind of brush over Southampton because they are one of the teams where I always just think, oh, they'll be all right. They've got, you think like, oh, well, Prowse is pretty sick, and like you know what I mean. Like Romeo's fairly competent, and like they've got a couple of good like wide players, and like Armstrong's not bad. But no, I think they could be in trouble, and I think the only thing that probably does maybe keep them up is if they can keep Ward-Prowse to the end of the window, which they probably will do, but
yeah,
with the way this window's gone, you don't know. And two, I actually do really rate Hasenhüttl as a manager. I think with the way that he's keeps losing players at Southampton and the way that they're trying to bring in players from academies and players that have gone under radar, like Livramento, I think that's made his job a hell of a lot harder. But yeah, I think Southampton's not a bad shout, and I think they will struggle this season.
Well, I've just checked them. The last 5 seasons, they finished 17th, 16th, 11th, 15th, and 15th. So not exactly great form.
But they've improved. 15th. It's not bad, but then at the same time, you're then looking at what five teams they've done better than, which is a quarter of the league. So like they're in the mid.
3 of them teams went down, so there's only like 2 teams between them who did, or 1 team between them. Sorry, who didn't.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and I think maybe based on the 2 teams that were around them last season, based on what I think they'll do this season, I think maybe I think you could be right. I think Southampton could be in trouble. Go
on, who's your 18th then?
So for my team, and some of my mates won't like this because I've got a few fans who support this team, but I've put Forest, and I think it's a bit harsh, and this one may be the stinker I drop in this video because they could do a Sheffield United or a Brentford.
I think it is, mate.
I we'll see, but I've looked through the transfer business, but as for every person I'm convinced by, there's another person which I'm just like, really, come on, like Taiwo Awoniyi obviously was at Hughes yonks ago. I think that's he'll score 10 to 15 or he'll score 0 to 5. I think
it's a bit risky. I agree.
Especially for the fee.
The only reason we got rid of him though actually was because he couldn't get a work permit for years and years and years, and by the time he did, it was like, well, I want to go because I'm not really going to get this chance here now because I've wasted all these years not getting a work permit, basically. Or along those lines, anyway.
Yeah,
obviously Neto Williams, we know his quality. He'll had a lot. I know he probably would have rather had Jed Spence because he already knew the system and stuff. But if you can't keep Spence, which Tottenham have signed, actually, we forgot to mention that for our top 4 thing. That's a really good signing, by the way. But yeah, so
I don't know. Like, is it like
signed on the Bundesliga players as well? Now that is a risk when it comes to Premier League. Obviously, they signed 2 centre back and a centre mid and a left back, all from the Bundesliga. And the striker, Niakate, and Richards, the left back.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, again, unknown quantities. Now, people who are maybe a bit more known quantities in the Premier League, we've got Dean Henderson and Lingard. Now, for Lingard, it's either one of them. He flops massively, or he does what he done at West Ham and has that kind of season where he's insane, gets himself in England for the World Cup or something mad.
Yeah, I think obviously that's the reason he's done it, and I think that probably poses maybe one or 2 problems, and I think maybe the first one is what happens post World Cup when he doesn't make the squad. Does his entire just belief and that when your team that's newly promoted, you're trying to sign, you want to sign players with a point to prove. Either that's they're taking a step up and they're trying to prove they're good enough, or they're dropping down from the team and they're trying to prove that it's a mistake letting them go. And I think the Dean Henderson one, I think is a very astute signing for them, because I think he's that type of player. But I think, like you said, the Bundesliga ones are always risky. Neco Williams, I've never really been convinced by, and the fact they've also then gone signed another right back, maybe the Forest manager Steve Cooper's maybe already got some questions. Omar Richards, I think it looks like a good signing if you're playing FIFA or Football Manager, but like, he's at Bayern Munich, yeah, great. Has he done much at Bayern Munich? Not really. Did he do much before that? Not really. Has he ever done anything in the Premier League? No. Like, you're taking a big risk with signing these players and expecting them to play in a back five that can deal with like all the attacks we're talking about, and then also expecting an attack that's got a Bundesliga striker who, granted, can score goals in the Bundesliga, but as a Chelsea fan, the Bundesliga attacks can hit you hard. Jesse Lingard, who we've said is hit and miss, and Brennan Johnson, who I think is a fantastic player, and I think he's a quality player, but the Championship to the Premier League, as we've discussed with Mitrovic, is an incredibly big gap. And whether he can do it in the Premier League when he's not facing, when Grant Hanley's one of the better defenders, to a league where Grant Hanley is one of the worst defenders. Like, there is levels to this game, and look, I could be wrong, but that step up's a big one, and he's going to have to really step it up and make it count.
Yeah. Now I think as well, obviously, like, the next topic is Golden Boot. Now I think that's wrapped up already, to be fair, by one or two players. Now, people have mentioned, obviously, Nunes, Haaland, but for me and you, I think it's...
Some crazy people are talking about Jesus winning it, which I think they just need to settle down and just breathe a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was getting a bit too excited, I think.
This is what they do. It's
right, yeah. Like they say, they're going to pump Liverpool.
Yeah.
4-0.
Yeah, I know. Let's put some speakers around the training ground to get rid of it, because then we can prepare for the atmosphere.
You know what?
Let's not lose it out the game.
That was actually quite a good idea, but then when you realise they got pumped 4-0 after, it's quite funny. But
and
anyway, I think it's between the usual suspects for the Golden Boot. I think Kane resumes normal service now. He's happy under Conte, and Salah obviously is inevitable, and he's going to have that break for the Winter World Cup that Kane doesn't have, by the way. Obviously, he's going to be going to the World Cup. Salah isn't. And Salah in pre-season has looked sensational once again, with a full pre-season behind him, and then the rest while the World Cup's going on. I think Salah's the Golden Boot for me.
Yeah, I think when I sent it over, I put Salah/Kane, and I think it is literally
now. Yeah, you actually did, yeah.
And I think you're right. I think with the whole month during the middle of the season to recharge, just to set himself and go again. I think Salah's if you're outscoring Salah, you're winning the Golden Boot. I think that's the
well, definitely, yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
So, right. And I think no one is so.
Yeah, and so we're on the topic of Salah. Now moving on to the Player of the Year. Obviously, he won it. He's just won it. Can he do the double like De Bruyne did? We will see. I think there's every chance. Now, in yours, I've just noticed you mentioned a Liverpool player who I had as my pick for my prediction for Player of the Year last season, in Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I think if Salah and De Bruyne weren't as good as he was, Trent last season would have been a great shout. But they obviously weren't as good as he was. So, but what makes you think Trent can get it this season then?
Well, part of it is because I then can hold out hope for my Young Player of the Year prediction. But I think Trent's just he's just too good, isn't he? Like, he's just too good not to win it at some point. Like, it's just like he's just unreal. Like, he's a right back, man. Like, what the fuck's he doing with these assists and like creating chances like this?
Like a right back potentially winning the Premier League Player of the Year. Really,
exactly. Like, who does he think he is? Like, the stones to be able to do that. Like, and he's just an unreal player, and he's just such a talent. And I think, look, granted as well, he might have a month to rest during this World Cup as well.
Yeah, well,
You
if
know what
Southgate's
Southgate's like with him being Trippier's could be 55 and about to get his pension, and he'd still pick it.
still start. Yeah, too loyal to them, to the players that have served him well.
But I think we haven't talked about De Bruyne potentially winning it, but does he not win it if City win the league? Like, can they win the league if he's not the player of the year?
Well, to be fair, look at last year. I know it was razor close, but Salah won it even though he didn't really perform after January. So anyone can win it really, no matter. But like, yeah, I think if City do win the league this season and De Bruyne does play a big part, then yeah, he has every chance, obviously. But anyway, we'll move on to the young player of the year. Now, I spotted something before on the rules, which your selection wouldn't actually be valid, I don't think, if we're going off the PFA one anyway.
Do you know what? When I did it, I was thinking, is he too old for it? And if he is, then I will have to.
Go on, we'll say who it is, and then say who it is if we're doing the PFA one.
Okay, so if we're just talking not PFA,
the Premier League Awards, which I think is under 24. I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I'd go with Reece James because I think we talk about how good Trent is, and I think it's fair because he is unreal. But I think Reece James is unreal as well, and I think the form he showed in the spells where he was fit and wasn't injured last season were as close to on par with Trent as any fullback's probably got since Trent's established this sort of form over season. And I think there's a point where I think it might have been in the Prem or domestic comps where James had one less goal involvement in 1,000 less minutes of playing, which regardless of obviously one so close to the title, 2 domestic cups and a Champions League final. Obviously, Trent had a much better season, but I think if James can continue to try and aspire to get to where Trent is in terms of his impact on the team, then and he does that, I think as a young player, if Trent does get the Player of the Year, I think would be a really good shout.
Yeah, in terms of obviously if he's not eligible and we're talking about the PFA, I think there's only at the minute there's only 1 or 2 contenders I see. Now the outstanding one is obviously Bukayo Saka. Now I think he played every single game for Arsenal last season and he got 18 goal contributions, which I think he is even like he's 19 or 20. I can't remember which one. I'll have to Google it.
I think he's probably 20 now, isn't he?
Yeah, probably with the Saka. Bukayo Saka, he is 20, yeah. He'll be 21 on the 5th of September. So, but still, he's a sensational player, and I think he goes up another level this season, by the way, as well. And he'll be starting. I don't know if this is outrageous or what, but he'll probably be starting for England at the World Cup, I think. In my opinion.
Yeah, potentially. I think.
Isn't he? So who've you got, really? You've got Sancho and maybe potentially Sterling, but he plays left on as well. So
yeah, I guess it depends on a lot of things, but I expect him to have quite a big involvement for Arsenal. Yeah.
So we'll go with the one to watch next, just because I think that's sort of again a young players category maybe. But then again, I suppose it could be signing as well, like a new signing as well. So I'm going to go for Carvalho. I think he surprises a lot of people. I think he makes a lot more appearances in the Liverpool first team than people are suspecting.
Yeah, I think he will get involved. Yeah.
He strides past people. He knows where the goal is. I think he's going to have a fantastic season.
No, I don't see why he won't. I think so. I've kind of once again I sent you one, but since I sent it, I've had a time to think. I think Gianluca Scamacca, who West Ham have signed. West Ham and strikers, I think they're the only team with a worse relationship with number 9s than Chelsea do. But I think he's the type of striker, if someone is going to score goals for West Ham, he will. He got 16 goals last year in Serie A. He's plays for Italy now. He's a fully fledged international. I think he's the type of striker that could get goals, and even if he doesn't get as many as people want, if it just takes the pressure off Antonio a little bit, and then he goes, look, this is another guy who can also score. You don't have to score as the winner every game. I think that just helps him as well. So that's a big impact he can have as well. And I think the other one, which has pretty much which has got confirmed today, or yes, probably earlier today, Levi Colwill going to Brighton on loan.
Yeah.
That boy deserved a chance in the Premier League after last season with Huddersfield, and he probably wasn't going to get it with us. So, and I think Brighton will utilise him. They also every now and again like playing a back three, which he can play, and he can play in a back four as well. He's just a really, really good young player, and if he can get some Premier League minutes under his belt, then I think he'll be able to show that quality, and I think he'll start by the end of the season. I think he'll start making talks about him getting in the England squad.
Yeah. Just a quick shout out as well to some of the additions Leeds have made. By the way, I think Leeds are actually a bit of a team to watch now. Obviously, they had a torrid time last season. No Phillips this year. They've got Bamford back though. They've brought, obviously they lost Rafinha as well, which is a big blow. But they've brought in the likes of Tyler Adams, Mark Rocker. Again, Bundesliga, but I think they're a bit more established, them two players. You've got Sinister or something. I probably murdered that, the lad from Feyenoord.
No, yeah.
He looks like an absolute baller.
Brendan Aronson as well.
Aronson and Rasmus Christiansen from, I think they're both from Salzburg.
Yeah.
And Salzburg have been a factory for talent in the last couple of years. Obviously, produced Haaland, produced Sesko, who also looks like a baller. They've produced Adeyemi, who's now gone to Dortmund. So, you know.
Mane was at Salzburg. Southampton.
I think Kanate might have been as well. Like, the Upamecano, I think definitely was. See, they've got like that proven production line.
Haidara as well.
There's another young midfielder called Luka Sukic as well, who apparently everyone's watching, like Liverpool and all the other big clubs and stuff. So I think, Leeds are a team to watch for me. West Ham as well. Like you mentioned, Schumacher, and they've made some other good signings. The centre-back who's unfortunately, I think he got injured in like his first pre-season game.
Yeah, he did.
But I think overachievers, I think maybe Leeds, because people are going to write them off, and they're going to be very surprised. I think 100%. Brentford as well. Brentford, people are writing Brentford off, saying they're going to have the second season syndrome. No, I don't think they are. They made some good signings. They've got Ben Mee, not too bad. Premier League experience. They've got Aaron Hickey. Looks like Scotland's next left back after Robertson and maybe Tierney, but apparently he's got the potential to be better than Eva, which is crazy. He must be real potential. And then obviously they've still kept in Mbeumo and Tony, which maybe is a bit surprising. I think Mbeumo is a player to watch this season, especially for me. I had glimpses last season, but obviously he had times where he didn't really do much as well. But I think he breaks out this year in Mbeumo.
I think you're right.
Underachievers, I think, well, as I've said, Southampton, maybe United. You said before you look at their window, I think they've done some good business. For me, I look at the business and think that's even more risky than buying from the Bundesliga. For me.
Yeah, unless your manager's Erik Ten Hag, then I'd argue it's a worthwhile gamble. I think.
Yeah, but I think it's going to take a while to put his philosophy in, like I said before as well.
Potentially.
As well. Has he really got any strikers if Ronaldo does end up leaving, or even if he doesn't end up leaving, does he want to play for him? Is he just going to down tools and not be bothered? Is Martial any good anymore? You know, these are all questions we still have to see the answers to.
No, 100%, 100%. I think there are a lot of questions about United, and obviously the Ronaldo one's a massive one. Martial, obviously, I think got injured the last couple of days as well, so he's not going to be fit.
Exactly. Is Rashford going to come back fit and firing? I would love to see that. I really rate Marcus Rashford as a player and as a human being after all he's done for them, kids being hungry and stuff. But I really rate him as a player as well. He's the one player who you play United and you're like, oh, Rashford's on, he might score. You know what I mean? Like the one player you
Dangerous,
think,
isn't he? Yeah.
like you know what I mean. When you look at that team sheet and you're looking at like you're like, and then you see Rashford, you're like, ooh. It's like when we used to play. I can't even think. We used to play someone and you'd see someone on the Sané for City. Oh my God, you'd maybe not be scared of City, but you'd see Sané on the team sheet in that one season. I think it was 18-19 when we lost the league by a point. And when you seen Sané was playing against you, mate, you were in fear for your life.
Dangerous times.
You were scared, man. Yeah. But so underachievers for me, you're probably going to be United and Everton, Southampton, and maybe even Chelsea. Like I said, I don't think they get top four. I don't think the additions have been good enough. I think other teams have strengthened more. They've lost several targets who I think would have made them better, mainly to Barcelona.
Yeah, but we kept Dave, and Dave. If Dave's at the club, then that's all that matters. But
yeah. I said to Emma, you'd be happy about that one.
Of course,
when I see it on Sky Sports News the other day. But yeah, so underachievers, and then the last one, signing of the season. There's a few contenders, I think, isn't there?
There's a few contenders, but I think it's one of them where right now there's a lot of contenders. By the end of the season, I think it might be one of the.
I think.
Go on. Who are your two?
And I think it's between. Obviously, I know you're going to say Erling Haaland. And now, if Nunes outscores him, Nunes is the sign of the season. You know what I mean? But if Haaland obviously absolutely blitzes the league like people are supposing him to, it'll be Haaland, no doubt.
Let's not also. We're talking about breaks for the World Cup.
Oh,
Haaland gets one as well.
Haaland gets one. Nunes doesn't. Yep. Okay, but
this is why it's such a. This is why when we're talking about these, like we've got a few nailed on things like Bournemouth for shy.
The top two.
But apart from that, it is just too close to call. Like we've not even spoke about teams like Villa, who signed Diego Carlos, Boubacar Kamara. Like they've made some really good signings. Like Everton are just one of those teams where like it's 16th or like 8th. Like they're just either they'll fall to pieces and Frank will be gone before the final whistle against us on Saturday, or he'll be there and everyone will be going, he's bloody amazing. It's just crazy. There's so many teams like no one knows what Palace, Leicester. What are they going to do? Wolves.
Leicester are looking like they're in a bit of trouble, to be fair, financially.
Maybe we'll sort them out.
They're out for 6 months as well.
Yeah, I think we're hoping to help them with that, with a potential world record breaking £85 million bid for Wesley Fofana, which would sum up Chelsea better than any other signing in my entire life, because it's just the craziest, stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. But I love it. Why not? Let's send out a really good 21-year-old out on loan to Brighton, and then let's just buy one for 85 mil who's not even English. That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, it's a bit mad. But Chelsea have never really used Cobham effectively, so
no.
And they don't think they will under this new ownership. He seems like he's obsessed with high profile, high quality, already proven
branding. That's what it is.
Well, yeah,
shirt sales, branding.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, we'll see, won't we? No, we'll get off. We'll let everyone enjoy Arsenal v Crystal Palace tonight.
Should we do a little? What's our prediction for Palace Arsenal just at the end for the opening game?
Okay, 2-1 Palace. Why not?
2-1 Palace. Benteke brace. Let's go. Xhaka red card.
Probably that's the most likely. That's the most likely out of any prediction that we've made on here tonight. Yeah, thanks for joining, guys. See you next time. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and share the video, please.